Start recording. Okay. We are transcribing and recording, and it's already on ETV. So go Don.
All right. Is that our chant for tonight? Go Don. So I guess to start, I'd like some feedback from you guys as to last week's meeting and kind of what you heard, what you thought, and if you have any instructions for me on anything you'd like me to look at further as a result of that meeting.
Well, I guess I'll go first. First, Don, I want to thank you and Lori and the rest of the staff for a wonderful meeting that we had last week. I think it went very well. Thank you for the presentation. I think you covered a lot of items for people. It was unfortunate we probably didn't get as many what I want to call regular or average citizens there as we were hoping for. A lot of people are from the Conservation Committee and Inland Wetlands. I know Ginny and Donna were there, and P&Z members, some council members, and other interested parties. But I thought overall it went very well, and I think you did a fine job. Thank you again.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And, you know, I look at it both ways. One, I felt it was a decent turnout. Even though for you guys it was some of the usual suspects, for me it wasn't necessarily. I don't always see council members. I don't always see conservation and wetlands in this context. So there were some new faces to me. I did feel there were a couple, you know, regular citizens. And while we thought we were going to have a much larger audience, I think it was best that it didn't turn into a referendum on wind development with a large turnout. So while I was prepared for that and we would have dealt with it, I'm glad it didn't turn into that. So all in all, I was pleased with the turnout. So I'm sorry, Melissa, were you going to say something when I cut in or no? Oh, you're not speaking tonight. I forgot. There's something in the chat. I guess I would ask Lori, were we online that night? Or was it just, it was going out over ETV?
Yeah, no, it was on ETV. It was live.
Any way for that audience, were they to participate, to comment, to?
No.
Okay.
ETV is just, it's just basically
Okay.
they just film it and put it live on YouTube.
Okay. So
It would be, I think that they could tell how many people have like logged on to it, so I could ask that.
okay. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know what we had for an audience there. So anyone else with thoughts, questions, comments? Just so you know, Melissa, I'm keeping my chat open now.
You know, I am disappointed at the turnout just because I really felt like maybe there was 5 or 6 people that were not on a commission. And
Okay.
that was very disappointing. Yet everybody was saying that, you know, we don't know what we're doing, and, you know, this is supposedly on Facebook, and, you know, it's like, and, you know, why should they bother going? Because we don't know what we're doing. It's like, well, if we don't know what we're doing, how about coming out and letting us know what you'd like to happen?
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate.
I agree. And unfortunately today, I don't think it's new. I think the social media platform is new, but it's very easy to throw stones. It's very easy to complain, but not get involved. I think historically, those same complaints occurred. We just didn't see them or hear them in the same way as they are on that. And I mean, a career of doing this, if one thing I've learned is, you know, it's not easy to get people out, especially for POCD meetings. And Laurie, I'm not sure a specific point in time. I think you were already gone because it was Hiram's watch in Simsbury. But Simsbury did a huge kind of charrette around their downtown that was a multi-day program that everyone raved about their participation. And they turned out like 790 people, but over 3 days. But it's a community of, 16,000 persons, which I just think goes to, even with a full blown effort to get people out, do multiple times and flexible ways of engaging, it's still extremely difficult to get people out for POCD meetings. So,
yeah, well, I think that was very focused. Charrette.
Is now exiting.
So,
was
something I was thinking of is, I don't think that anybody from, say, Thompsonville was represented at that meeting. And I wonder if maybe we should do some special meeting, focus on the TOD and Thompsonville.
Sure. I'm game.
Well, Lori, there's a couple of council in there with Thompsonville ties. I'm thinking back now to the audience whether it was who else might have been there. Of course, Councilman Santinella was there.
Yes, Councilman Santinella was there. I don't think there was anybody else there. I'm talking more, I think it would be really nice for us to reach out to the community of Thompsonville, trying to really get the owners and the tenants out to some sort of meeting just so they could express their thoughts, concerns, give them a little tidbit about what we're planning with the transit-oriented development and that the train station is coming, and just see what their thoughts are. That's just my thinking.
So
Melissa says 2 thumbs up.
And I know
Didn't even see that in the chat.
And I know Melissa has something in the chat that I wanted to read. I wonder how much of our outreach was personalized versus mass. I've had success with public meetings, inviting people personally and through organizations. Agreed. That is an option. And that was kind of leading into my question about Thompsonville is what's the venue? What's the avenue into that community? How could we, strategically organize a meeting and get turnout?
Can we ask the folks over at Corona's if we can leave flyers there for a town meeting? Corona's is right in downtown T-ville. It's right across the street from Assuntuck Street, right next door to the old firehouse. It's basically the only fresh grocery store down there that doesn't need a bus line.
Yeah, as far as advertising, we could put them in there's a couple little liquor stores and little mom and pop shops that are there. But I think, Don, your question was an actual venue.
Yeah, that was probably a bad word. I don't think I was meaning. I guess in part I meant where do we host this, but I think I was kind of thinking venue in the context more of organization, entity. I don't know. I'm just gonna throw this out there, like a very active Polish American club in the neighborhood that, we could A, use as a way of reaching into the neighborhood, and B, maybe even use as a venue. And I know Polish American Club's a bad example. It's just what came to mind. So.
It's actually a perfect example because I think that's exactly what's there down by Bigelow. They make the best pierogies around, and they've got I've never been up there, but they have a meeting place that I guess has been a banquet hall and a dance hall and stuff. More of you Enfield people probably have more details to that effect, but I believe that's available.
Lori, the town's held things over there in the past.
Yes, but I've never been.
Oh, I know, but
So I that's why I can't speak to it. Like what
the only
what
thing
it's
is
like.
parking. You know, if a lot of people drive, you're going to have a problem.
But I think a lot of people, if they're in Thompsonville, they could probably walk there. So, but yeah, driving is an issue. There is a church parking lot right down the street from it.
That's
That
true.
holds,
I
that
forgot.
holds about 50 cars.
Yep.
So that would be something.
Yeah. But it's really nice upstairs.
That's what I've heard.
Yep.
And I think Harley agrees.
Yep.
Do they serve the community? I guess that's my other question.
Serve the community how?
Is the organization in the facility tied to the local community?
No. Unless you want to buy their food or, rent their hall. They don't have any outreach programs. It's mostly St. Patrick's Church has the most outreach programs. That is
there is the food share. And and again, I think I was in that building maybe 30 years ago. It's a long time ago. But the Enfield, was it Loaves and Fishes? Is that what that is?
You mean right the old restaurant?
Yeah, the Sophia's restaurant that
Sylvia's, yeah.
So that's, I don't know if it's a great venue for a congregation like this. There's a couple of old churches. There is an actual dance hall.
Where? Oh yeah, on Pearl Street.
Down on Pearl Street. I have no idea how big it is.
Small.
So then, you guys are writing way much faster than I can keep up with. Personalized speaking. Pearl Street Library. Pearl Street Library is a great idea. Bigelow Commons parking lot and another meeting room option. Okay. How about, I'm just thinking, refresh my memory names, Lori, social service director woman that I interviewed.
Cynthia Gary. Yep.
Right.
I never pronounced her last name, but Cindy.
Right. Would they be a good source for reaching into the community?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So let's you and I plan on talking about a venue, a date, and ideas of how to reach out into the community and see what we can come up with. I don't want to use this time.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So
I think we've got some good ideas. So
yeah. Cool. Any other thoughts? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I thought your presentation was very good. I think it was pretty well received. Some of it was repetitive for those that have been here all along, but it was a good overall view. Yeah. I still think that we're going to have some issues with the housing requirements.
Yeah.
That the state is mandating. So.
And I think, so 2 takes on that. One is, it was in part my conversation with Lou a couple weeks ago that I felt that I needed to go backwards a little in review since there has been turnover in the committee and so forth. And I'll be honest, I was really hesitant to do so, but I ultimately decided going backwards had some value. I also softened some of the housing recommendations before that presentation or for that presentation. And I recognize we probably have to have a bit of a further discussion around housing policies in the end. So, state or not, state legislation or not, I think you guys need to make some hard choices on housing. So.
Yeah.
Anyone else? So with only having one tiny screen, I love seeing you guys' faces and seeing expressions and so forth, but I'm gonna have to forego you to actually share my screen and run through the survey with the community facilities survey with you. And if I can find it now. Now, Lori, I believe I sent you the survey. Has the survey been forwarded to the committee?
I don't think I have forwarded it yet.
Okay. All right. That's fine. I just wanted to know. Also, just so you guys know, like I said, I can't see you guys anymore in this format. So really, if you want me to stop, if you have a question, just butt in. And then Lori, I would ask if it's Melissa in the chat, if you could butt in for her and tell me what's going on.
All right, will do.
All right, thank you guys. So hopefully you see the survey up right now.
Yes.
And so I'm just going to run through kind of the questions and tell you my thoughts on them. I did, when I kind of reviewed this in prep for tonight, there were some places where I felt that I need some kind of maybe clarification or input from you guys. So I will do that along the way where I think I need some help. And as I said, feel free to get my attention if you have questions or comments. So the first question, how important is the quality and appearance and functionality of Enfield's municipal administrative public safety, library, and schools to you? I'll be honest, I've actually never asked this question this way before. And I was very surprised with the very important and the important being the overwhelming response on this. I knew it was important and that it should have gotten a heavier response. I didn't expect that, heavy of a response in that direction. But I think that starts to inform us about kind of the importance of municipal facilities, that the community truly does value them. Based on your experience, please rate the quality of appearance of the following buildings. And leaning to the left here in the reds is good. Leaning to the blues to the right is less good, we'll say, or moving towards poor and I don't know. I guess my question on this is, I don't know, that building I'm familiar with, so I'm good here. It seems like the EMS building is the least favorable in appearance, and I think we've already had discussions on kind of its age, its challenges, and so forth, so that's probably not a surprising answer. How important is the quality and appearance and functionality of Enfield's parks and recreation facilities to you? Once again, overwhelming on very important and important. And once again, kind of driving home that message of the importance of community facilities, whether they're buildings or recreational facilities, the community tends to value them. If I didn't say at the beginning and you didn't see at the beginning, we had 167 responses on this survey, which I truly believe is a good response turnout for a community facilities survey, since it's not the sexiest of topics. So based on your experience, please rate the quality of appearance of the following parks. And these aren't matching up, the bars, they're kind of half slotted. So sometimes you have to count up and down to get them coordinated. I guess my question here to the community, which I, thought of earlier, is what am I missing in the sense of what is it about Lafayette Park and what is it about White Acres Park that are rating so weak on this? Anyone?
Lafayette Park is in the middle of a residential community in the back of Thompsonville. Nobody knows it's there. I mean,
Okay.
most of the staff didn't know it was there when we started looking around for community gardens, and we ended up putting some there, and nobody took them because it's all residential. The other park,
Lafayette Park is down what we call the Dingle. It's the bottom of Bigelow and Hartford Avenue. It was a park for, gosh, almost 80 years. Matter of fact, my daughter actually was a park supervisor there. It's one of the parks that kind of went dormant for a long time, and I believe over the last couple of years they tried to bring it back to life to service that whole, what I would say, the old St. Adalbert's neighborhood. It has a lot of potential, but it is back down at the bottom of what we would call us Townsville people, the Dingle, behind the VFW. Wood Acres, I'm very familiar with because when I was the council in District 4 20 years ago, we pumped a lot of money into that one. Again, I'm not sure what the maintenance is on that one. It's a small park with a ball field and a basketball court and some playground equipment. I'm not sure what the upkeep's been up there recently, but that's the deal on those two.
Okay. How about Higgins Park?
Well, Higgins Park is something that the council, with the last town manager and even the current one, have started. It's something that's the park that's being developed around Town Hall. Well, I have maybe Lori knows more than we know what's going to go forward now and what's not, but that's the park that's being started.
Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised because I've been there, I've seen it. I'm familiar, and I'm familiar with the plans moving forward. Just kind of surprised that it got a weak rating there on appearance. That just kind of surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, what the improvements that they've done recently, literally over just the last few months, they've put in a basketball court, a quarter mile walking path, and very young aged playground. Right now, it doesn't look great because it still looks like it's semi under construction, at least the walking path. I think people were upset over the fact that they took the ball field away, that might be part of it. But I mean,
Okay.
every day that I look out the window, there are people, kids and adults on all of those things. Not so much the walking path, but adults sit on the swings with their kids, and the kids are out playing basketball every night now, which is really cool.
Awesome. The last thing I'll note on this is just the town green. I think it just kind of informs us that this is probably a very important space to the community, and you probably already knew that. And it's good that there is positive feedback on it.
So those are really the same thing, the same location. The town green and Higgins Park are all the same town hall properties.
Yeah,
the green is
that.
Separate, kind of, but
yeah. I mean, I think of in some ways your town green is the front lawn to your town hall.
Right.
Yeah. And I think people definitely differentiated between the park to the back. I expected a more positive response on the park to the back because from an appearance perspective, as this question is asked, I just don't see anything that unappealing about Higgins Park as is. So that was just kind of a surprise there. And maybe it's the stuff going on with the improvement or things that aren't being improved. Maybe it's other things that are showing in there.
It might have also been the memories of the pre-improvement side too. So
Okay.
you never know what people were thinking of when they answered this. So it may not be the current improvements at all.
Yeah. Okay. So then question 5, overall, what is your current opinion of the conditions of town buildings? This is where things just started shifting a little bit. You know, the very goods become much weaker and good and fair start to dominate. Question 6 follows a similar path. What is your current opinion as to the condition of town parks? So early on, you know, people answered really strongly about them when we were asking about appearance and functionality, but when we got into conditions, you know, the answers became weaker. So Enfield is doing a good job of maintaining public buildings and other community facilities. And once again, your strongest answer is agree. So I can't say anything negative here. The strongly disagrees are a bit higher, and there's a lot of neutrals. And so Enfield is doing a good job of maintaining town parks. And this state, you know, this is a very similar answer to the public buildings above. I think there's a lot of consistency here. Enfield is doing a good job of maintaining public open space. And neutrals won out in this. And in some ways, I'm not surprised. Just in the context of, I think open space is more generic than parks or buildings and maybe harder for people to grasp. The strongly disagree is kind of edging up as a meaningful number there against the agrees. So Enfield should invest more in community facilities, buildings, and parks. And here, I'll have to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised with the strongly agree and the agree. I've sensed a timidness to discuss investments in spending money in the work I've done with you guys, both in public meetings, in our prior survey, in our group discussions like these. So the having 128 agree or strongly agree seemed like a very strong message, at least in this context, about a desire to invest more. Enfield needs a community center or a place for the community to meet and engage for social, educational, and recreational activities. Just to remind you guys, if you recall, we wanted to provide some context as to what we meant by community center because we had some different perspectives. So that's why there's the bracketed portion. And the highest answer was strongly agree. The second highest answer was agree. And then there was, you know, the neutrals and the disagreement and some not sures. This, once again, as with the ones above, this is a fairly strong response. Number 12 was an open-ended question. Is there any other information, comments, recommendations that you want to make? We had 68 responses there. I haven't gotten a good grasp on going through those yet as to what were the key themes. We just, you know, as an easy selection software, put in what was the last response. And I'll just say, even though I don't have a good grasp on themes, in the questions, the open-ended questions, there were 4 or 5 of them in the survey in total. I was kind of surprised at the number of responses that we got similar to that, where we got responses that said, get rid of the building, sell this, sell that. I need to go through more thoroughly and get a better grasp on that. But I think at the end of the day, there was this kind of theme of get rid of stuff. So I'll pause there. How do you guys, because you guys are the committee here, how do you guys react to the idea of getting rid of stuff?
It depends on what we're getting rid of.
Okay. What's something you would get rid of if it was up to you?
Some of the old, there's a grammar school over on Taylor Road that's been closed for years. And it's just deteriorating. I'd like to get rid of that. And maybe if there's any more schools like that, get rid of them. Sell them to businesses. We're not doing anything with them.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
I can let you know that the town has in the past few years gotten rid of a lot of the foreclosed properties. We've sold them. We're in the process of selling a brownfield. Well, actually not selling, but Kelly Fredette is taking over a little brownfield site, so that will get back on the tax rolls. We've gotten rid of a multifamily complex in Thompsonville that had burnt down. It was just sitting there, and I believe we've sold that at this point. So we have been trying to sell off properties that we don't need anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, just very recently, we the town of Enfield sold. Gosh, I forgot the name of the building on High Street. It was the building that was built back around 2004 that was used by social services. That got sold to a private daycare center, and I'm not sure if it's been sold or at least a permanent lease with the. Is it the Opera Players for the old senior center on High Street also? I think they have an exclusive.
I believe that's in the process of being sold.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll give this past council some kudos. They were, moving some of the older pieces of property that we've held on to for a long time, or at least attempting to, anyways.
Yeah. Yes, Corinne.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, there are some of the services that need to be consolidated into single facilities, such as what I remember, some form of EMS and the police, the security complex that need to be in one location. So wherever such consolidations are possible and are in two separate facilities, one of them that may be owned by the town we should get rid of. There's also, I recall, a facility for public works that was behind the old town hall, and now museum, or behind the fire station. So again, if the services of the public works are consolidated into a single facility, such as the one on Moody Road, that would free up one facility that we could get rid of and not hang on to. So there may be other possible areas where this could happen. The one on High Street just went to a private developer, and I thought that was a great idea. I personally did work on those facilities in the past few years. So I think get rid of is a good concept if we can optimize our services into whatever single central location they need to be in.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, let's not forget also that the Lamagna Center, I believe, is still targeted to be torn down. So that's a pretty much a vacant facility now that'll become, I think it's going to be coming down sometime shortly.
That was down with the Strand.
Yeah, a lot of those programs got moved over to the annex.
Right.
Sorry,
So
Laurie,
it would be both the Strand and Lamagna. We would have them both demolished and redeveloped together. That's right in the heart of Thompsonville, across from the lake, in the middle of our TOD.
Moving on. Next question. How important was the availability of parks and recreation facilities when deciding to live in or remain in Enfield. This actually surprised me. The very important and the important are more than 50% of the responses. And I didn't expect that strong of a response when I wrote the question. And therefore, I think it does have some meaning and maybe informs us a bit. How often do you use parks and recreation facilities? Once again, not knowing who specifically our audience is and so forth, still, to me, kind of a surprising answer. Weekly at the largest percentage, or the largest number, was a little bit surprising. The few times a year is actually what I expected to be a higher number. May just show that I'm less civically engaged in public spaces than others. But I thought this was a, fairly strong response as to utilization of these facilities.
Well, I think without knowing who answered what, I think there's a correlation between the very important with the weekly and monthly. So without seeing the specifics, you could presume that the ones using it more are going to say they're more important.
Yep,
and at least that's consistent with the responses.
Yep. And I think throughout there's been, if you look at them in that way, there's been a lot of those that you can see the answer to one question being similar to the responses to one question being similar to responses in others. What parks and rec facilities are important to you and your household? Once again, I think it at least gives us an idea. I will tell you that the one thing that jumped out at me here was the low response on the pickleball, which then probably tells me that we didn't hit a lot of senior citizens here. So I expected a bit of a stronger response there. At the end of the day, past experience with community facilities surveys and stuff, when you think of the demographics of a community, families with children, because of schools, use community facilities a lot and also use park facilities a lot and so forth. So you typically, and I think what I'm trying to say is they typically attract people that use facilities more so than not, and seniors aren't necessarily the largest group of users. So. We threw in some things there, I believe. Did we throw in? No, forget it. Confusing myself there. Once again, the passive stuff, the bike paths, the Scantic River access points, as in other surveys, discussions, things we've done, that kind of passive recreation continues to rate strongly. We see it there with the walking trails above also. How important are the following parks to you and your family? I guess some of this could be influenced by geography, but going back, to the earlier question about appearance and so forth, we see the town green come in really strong here. Oddly enough, maybe and Powder Hollow coming in very strong here. I think that, we see something here in Lafayette and White Acres, even though they're not these things are not lining up perfectly. We're seeing a weakness on those two parks again, as we did in those earlier questions. So differently framed question, but, weaker on those parks. Recognizing once again, geography of the town, people's interaction with specific areas could influence. How often do you or your household use the following parks? I think this is expected in the high nevers. I wouldn't read those as, we never use parks. It's that there's specific parks, there's many parks that specific people are not using, and that's why we get the highest number in there. So, does Enfield need more locations for parks and recreation facilities? And the highest being yes, kind of balanced out by the no's here with a lot of don't knows. So in some ways, maybe a degree of a balanced response on that. Is there any other information, comments regarding last response? Once again, I will get you guys a summary of these responses, of the written responses, as soon as I have them. Hopefully, I'll email them to Lori by Friday. This one is kind of interesting. Stop forcing splash pads on us. Is the water recycled? But I'd like to see more of that before I comment on it. So, how important is the public library to you and your household? And here we go with a very strong response. This is not unexpected. Libraries always rate very high as community facilities. They typically get very strong support. And then we differentiated between the Central Library and the Pearl Street Library. And in those next questions, we see, overwhelming on the Central Library, weaker on, the branch. But once again, I wouldn't expect anything different. A branch is not going to get as much attention as the Central Library. So if everyone's strongly supporting the library, then we'd expect to see the strong support on the Central Library, at least more so than the branch library. How often, and we qualified before the pandemic to try and get around the pandemic here maybe a little bit, did your household use the library? And, I think the top three, the more than once a week, the once a week, and more than once a month are the really kind of telling categories. You could even say that someone using the library once a month is a very strong user. But the interesting thing here is the nevers were only 18. They were the weakest. That, the overwhelming majority of the respondents in this are engaging in your libraries. Is there any other information? So I don't know why this one. Oh, I guess the person wrote none. So that was the last response on that one. So then Enfield's public safety services are adequate, and people strongly agreed kind of across the board for police, emergency medical service, and fire. Just so you know, I'm not trying to do anything related to the fire districts with asking questions about them. I just didn't feel that, while I recognize they're separate and independent, I didn't feel that I could ask a public safety emergency services question with just not including them. So that's why they were included. And it gives us, a flavor of the community's thought on the districts. So how important are availability of public services to you and your household? Once again, we wouldn't expect anything different here. Public safety is very important. It always rates very important. And I think we recognize as local government kind of the importance of public safety. And I'll get to those. I'll get those responses to you on the write-ins. Based on your experience, please indicate how well you believe the town of Enfield's facilities meet the needs of the community. Town hall rating very well. The annex drops back a bit. Sorry, I'm trying to keep these lined up. Police station rating very well. The EMS building dropping back a bit. Library very well. So it's when we get down to the bottom here, some of the other facilities getting weaker. I thought I had more facilities on that. A little confused here. Like we maybe chopped off part of this answer. So, based on your experience, please indicate how well you believe the following Enfield school facilities meet the needs of the community. Your schools overall got, I think if you eliminate the don't knows out of this, which is the majority of the right-hand negative side, then I think at the end of the day, your schools got very strong responses here.
Yeah. Poor.
Sorry?
Poor.
What do you mean poor?
They look like they're poor to me.
How so? Wait.
Well, the yellow and the red.
Yep, which is very well in neutral is on the left-hand side.
Sorry, I read it the opposite way. Sorry.
Okay. No problem.
Is the thinking on the don't knows that they're the folks without kids in the system?
Yeah, that's my. I would view them in two ways. One, they're people without kids in the system, or if we're talking about elementary schools, they're people who may have kids, but they're not in those schools, or they're not in the high school. So I think it can be both, but I don't think it's exclusively no kids. I think it's just people that may not have familiarity with specific schools also.
For future surveys that you do for other towns, would it make sense to don't have children in the school just as a identifier?
Yeah, that would be a very good idea. And I'll be honest with you, we kind of and I think in the trying to turn this survey around quickly, while on our broad community survey that we did last time, we started with a demographic section. I just kind of dropped the ball and didn't do a basic demographics as the leading questions to this. I think twofold. One, we were trying to turn it around quickly. Two, I was so focused on facilities questions that I just kind of lost sight of that. And I'll be honest, I regret it now. I wish I had a little bit on the demographic makeup of the respondents. So, and the have kids or not have kids may have been at least partially answered if I had done the demographics. So my apologies. How often have you been to the town hall annex past 12 months? The regularly kind of surprised me once again. I shouldn't say surprised me. At the end of the day, I'm still trying to get a grasp on how you guys actually use the annex. And I know in our discussions, we felt we had to note it as the former Fermi High, which kind of said to me a lot of people weren't familiar and so forth. So I guess the responses other than never here kind of surprised me that, the community does seem actively using that facility, and it may be the specifics of what's going on at that facility. For what purpose do you visit the town hall annex? And this was once again the written responses, and I'll get a better look at them and get them to you by the end of this week. Town hall annex is being used adequately, and this is where we got a stronger, negative response. Once again, I'm not sure we're surprised by that. Even within this committee, there's been a wide variety of perspectives, but I think a level of consensus of maybe lack of adequacy in the utilization of the facility. Town hall annex could be better utilized for the community. And once again, kind of the counter to this question, it's understandably shifting, in the strong positive direction. Then we gave the option of people kind of providing perspective on what they thought the annex should be used for. I could also say that as kind of could be used for. And this question, I think, from the beginning was designed to kind of go fishing and kind of see what was out there for responses with the wide variety of potential uses. I think also the first 4 or 5 uses came directly from the prior study, that they were the uses that were explicitly conceptualized for the annex, so there was some intentionality in including those. And I think what we see is there's a wide variety of perspective here, and there's certain things that kind of jump out to the strongest. Recreation rated very high, community center and community meeting space, and adult education. And in some ways, it's already been being used for all those things. And maybe that's leading into those answers. Swimming pool and recreation at the bottom. So should the town hall annex be used as a regional police training center? The strongest answer is don't know. I'm happy with that. I'm not sure everyone should know that. And then we kind of have this split yes and no. And then there is the never. So are there other ways the town hall annex can be used? I'll get through those responses. We did a bunch of open-endeds here to wrap this up. So that was specific to the annex. Is there any other information related to annex? This is where we saw some of those, sell it and so forth. As I said, I'll get those to you. And is there any other information or comments related to the survey as a whole? And, your typical fix the road comment definitely surfaced in there. So I just find it funny how much attention roads get. So there. I guess it just makes sense from a user perspective. So many of us, not all, but so many of us interact with them that we have opinions on them, but they're such a mundane, uninteresting topic at the end of the day. I'm sorry, I'm just, versus total population. So the question, how large is your respondents versus total population? Someone calculated that above at like 0.5. It's 0.5%, right? Yeah, 0.5% on respondents. As I said, responses on POCD related stuff typically are on the shallower side. I don't expect, 5% of the population to respond or 10% or so forth. On our community-wide survey that we did a year ago, we had 512, I believe, total responses. My comments to Lori, and while I'd always like to see larger responses, 167 responses for a community facilities survey, I think is fairly decent. It's not the most attractive topic or exciting topic. What value of it has? The best answer I can give you is it's just another set of data points to consider. It doesn't provide us with definitive direction. It does kind of, for me at least, reinforce some of what I've heard on this committee. Some of the answers are consistent with the interviews that I've done with, agencies within the town, departments and so forth, as to their facilities, as to their perspectives on facilities. So it's one of many data points that's helping to inform me to try and craft recommendations for policies for you guys.
Is this level of response more or less normal for a community of 40,000 in your experience, having probably done other similar communities before? Don?
I can't answer. Normal in this work is so hard to answer. All I'd say is I'm not surprised. So, every now and then doing this work in the community, I'm trying to think back. I did some similar work years ago in Groton, and I just don't remember what we had for the responses on this. Individualized community facility surveys aren't typically that common. It's usually a few questions within the general, broad-based community survey. And that's why my general feeling was 167. If we got 500 plus on the community-wide survey that was broad in topics, and then only got 167 on the community facilities, that feels normal to me. That feels like what I would expect, just because, it's a narrower topic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Others? Anyone?
Do we have plans for any further survey type studies in the POCD realm?
At this point, the only thing we've flirted with is relaunching the community survey, the broad survey from a year ago. I think since we did that survey, two things have changed. Is one, the town doing announcements in Spanish also, not just English, and the success we've had with the utilization, or that the towns had with the utilization of the VR codes on the advertisements, which we didn't use on that prior survey. I think it might be interesting to relaunch that survey and see, it's a year later. And last year we were more in the middle of a pandemic than we are now, not to say that we're out of it, to just see if we get similar or different responses and see if the Spanish language and VR code help us get a higher response. So we've been flirting with that. I can't say we've made a definitive decision.
I have an ulterior motive behind asking that question. The motive being, we have I-91 and Route 5. They're more or less parallel all the way from East Windsor town line to Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And I would like to somehow see better industrial as well as business utilization of that corridor, more because of its access, easy access to transportation, compared to, for example, Bacon Road. It's so far away from the highway. So if and when there is an opportunity, I'd like to have this kind of a question or response a little more in detail, that what can we do, or what is the response of the community in considering this entire corridor as a lot more industrial and business, and a little less perhaps other than that.
I think it'd probably be worthwhile to start by revisiting the broad community survey from a year ago. I believe we had a core area of economic development questions that covered portions of that corridor. Maybe didn't think of it as holistically as you, but that might be a starting point.
Sounds good. Yep.
So.
Okay. All right. So in order to do something like that, Lori, we have to go through another funding process, etc.
I'm not saying no to it. So I'm within a scope, but I'm not saying no. Just let us revisit it a bit and see what we think. So.
Okay. No, thank you.
Yep.
I just felt that entire corridor is it's somewhat underutilized for what it can happen, what it can do.
Yeah.
and that includes mall is current status of the mall, not the past several years, is also important because I still feel that at this point it's still not properly utilized. It's still underutilized.
Yeah. And you're not alone in that feeling, nor is your mall alone in being underutilized, as most are today. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. Lori, unless you have something else, I'm prepared to wrap up for this evening. And like I said, I will get you guys' thoughts. I'll get you the full written responses. I've got to break them out of an Excel sheet, and I'll get you my thoughts on them by the end of the day, Friday. So.
Yep. I don't have anything else at this time. I don't know about anybody else.
Well, I'm just curious. Yep. Sorry. I'm just curious what we're going to cover 2 weeks from now. What's our next step?
Let me think about that. To be honest with you, I haven't thought about that. In some ways, we've thematically run through all the topics. That's why I've kind of been like, are there things we need to revisit? I think Lori's comment on trying to reach into Thompsonville should probably be the largest priority right now for some type of public outreach there. So.
Okay.
So I guess I'm asking you if you can allow me to circle back with Lori and for us to sort that out and get back to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
And Melissa is suggesting that we review draft independently before the meeting and figure out what actually needs revising versus what's fine. So, I mean, and I think that we are all at that point where we really need to look at what has been presented as our draft and start thinking, okay, is this enough? Is it too much? Are we missing something?
Yeah.
Like, for instance, the art came up at the POCD meeting. The community art, murals, and things of that nature. And that is something that I think we should be pursuing. I'm not sure if we have discussed it, but that's been kind of in the back of my mind as well. And I've actually spoken to that woman that was there before, and right before COVID, she was going to try to do some murals, and we don't really have a regulation or ordinance or anything that really kind of permits it. So, I mean, that's something that we need to work on. So, in other words, so it's not considered a sign. Yeah,
I thought
always fun.
Yeah, I
the
thought
world of regulation.
people do the graffiti on the bridge girders at night. That would be considered mural.
Yeah.
So, anybody else?
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Oh,
All right,
Lou,
we'll wrap it up.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very
Good
much.
night, all. Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Lou. Bye-bye.
Thank you.